Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for joining me today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. So today from Lucky 7 Spirits, we've got the Jokester. So there's a few within the lineup, this one specifically being what they're calling the Jokester. What is it? This is a 95% or 95 proof bourbon, 47.5% ABV. Mash bill is undisclosed, but we know it was distilled and bottled in Bardstown, Kentucky, and it is age stated as 6 years old. And the MSRP for this one is right around that $60 price point. So, and the name Lucky 7 basically comes from the famous or very popular stage number 7 on the old Warner Brothers, lot. There were several older movies that were filmed there, and it kind of became something that was known as Lucky Stage number 7, thus Lucky 7 Spirits. So we'll transition over eventually into the 12-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, but first we'll start out again with the 6-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey called the Jokester. So as you can see, color-wise, kind of a light copper type of color, maybe a light or medium type of amber color, very kind of typical color that you see with bourbon. So, and again, move the whiskey around in the glass a little bit. A couple things helps to introduce a little bit of air to it, and then second, kind of gives you an idea of the oils. And actually looking at this, it's actually showing some really nice oils running on the glass. So that's a really nice thing to see. So, all right, let's get into the nose here. Oh, so immediately right away, this like really nice kind of like almost like a tart, like green apple type of aspect to it. Kind of a light or medium oak and spice kind of combo. Some medium caramels that are there. That spice is kind of starting to come out a little bit more in it. Same thing with that oak a little bit. So I think as it just kind of begins to open up here a little bit, the oak and that spice are kind of starting to kind of come out a little bit more in that. Slight nutty characteristic to it as well. A little bit fruity even, like maybe some dark fruits. Actually, I almost want to say more of like a tropical type of note to it. I thought maybe some dark fruits, but this is a little bit more of like a tropical, almost, I guess, as far as comparison, would be kind of like a juicy fruit, like bubble gum type of aspect to it. So very like vibrant, fruity, like more of a tropical fruit. Maybe a slight bit of ethanol on it. Not super dominant or anything like that. Again, 95 proof, good proof point on it. Yeah, there's a little bit of like a tangy aspect. It's like very bright, like floral almost. All right, more importantly, let's see how this one tastes. Cheers. Yeah, so again, like the nose, immediately I get this tartness, this like green apple type of tartness that kind of then fairly quickly some of that oak and that spice kind of start to layer in there. That spice really lingers very nicely, kind of coats the mouth really well. Spice kind of starts to begin to dominate with a little bit of that kind of still that underlying tartness, that green apple aspect to it. Yeah, a little bit of caramel. Yeah, you can almost call this like a caramel apple, like just with like a little bit of that tartness that's there from a green apple. Spice is really nice on this. Oak is there, not super dominant in the oak part of things, but it definitely lets you know there's something there with the oak presence, but very spicy. Maybe even a little bit of that black pepper that's there, not super dominant, where it can be, sometimes you'll get a bourbon or a whiskey that will be so heavy on the pepper, it wants to kind of dominate. It's not dominating, it just lets you know that there's a little bit of something that's there to it. Yeah, I just kind of continue to get a little bit of that tartness, the oak, the spice, that caramel, that vanilla. I guess if I had to try to define it from a food standpoint, it's very much of a caramel apple with a little bit of that tartness that's there. So very interesting. You know, it's not a typical profile for me. I don't get always a lot of that green apple citrus in, or excuse me, citrus, just the green apple part of it, or that tartness that's there. But overall, it's a really nice, you know, profile, I think so far. Finish wise, I guess I would say still lingering. It's all of medium. And again, I would still say a little bit of that. The vanillas, the caramels are definitely there. But again, the common denominator for this one for me is just that lingering green apple caramel, kind of just that green apple caramel, you know, dominance that's there for me on this one. It's interesting, I would say, from that profile standpoint. But as far as just, you know, sitting down and sipping on this, it's really nice. I think it's a little bit different, which is nice. It's, you know, it's not always just the traditional bourbon flavor profiles. This gives you a little bit of something to kind of, you know, search for. And one thing that would be kind of interesting would be to maybe see, as this opens up a little bit, how it kind of develops a little bit more. Now, this bottle specifically, I've had open now for probably close to a month. So I like to allow these bottles to open up a little bit before I just do a kind of a, you know, a neck pour review off of something, because I don't think it does the whiskey justice when you just kind of crack a fresh bottle and then do the review. I think getting a little bit of air, you know, introduced to it, generally speaking, will help. So overall, I think it's a really nice, you know, different kind of profile for me. So, all right, let's move on to what they're basically calling the Hold Up. Again, so this is going to be the Lucky 7, the Hold Up Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is coming in at 100 proof or 50% ABV. Again, mash bill undisclosed, but again, we know it was distilled and bottled in Bardstown, Kentucky. It is age stated on the actual bottle of it being 12 years old, and the MSRP for this is going to come in at right around $125. So, all right, let's get into this one. So color-wise, you can see, so now we've got something that's got a little bit more age to it. You're starting to get kind of a deeper copper, lighter mahogany type of color. And again, move the whiskey around in the glass a little bit, help to kind of introduce a little bit of air to it. And again, the oils, very similar to the Jokester. This is, again, very, very oily, which I'm hoping kind of translates over to the palate, helps to allow for more flavors to kind of linger behind. So, all right, let's get into the nose. Wow, so far for me, like night and day. This is very heavy on the dark fruit forward, almost, yeah, very, very dark fruit dominant. That chocolate that's there. Really nice spice that's there. Really rich, like creme brulee. That oak and that spice. You can see so far, like immediately, what a little bit of extra time does, you know, in a barrel. With that extra age, some of those flavors that kind of really begin to develop. And this one really has more of like an orange citrus type of note on it. Really rich, like creamy caramel. Yeah, that chocolate, that really nice, like kind of melted, rich, like milk chocolate is really, really present in this with those dark fruits. It's very like raisin, plums, figs, all those dark cherries, all of that. It's a very, very rich nose. So hopefully that will translate over to the palate. So yeah, a little more of that orange kind of citrus popped out there a little bit. All right. More importantly, let's again see how this one tastes. Cheers. It's very, when you've got something that's got like some life to it, it's very like bright and open, meaning there's some of those dark fruits, that chocolate, the caramels, the vanillas, all those layers, and it's very like amped up. It's like very like alive, like there's like an effervescence to it. Still coats the mouth extremely well. Some of that orange citrus comes out in this one a little bit more. Boy, that's really nice. Yeah, I'd say some of the chocolate, even maybe with the chocolate, you could get a little bit of that like a coffee bean or like an espresso type of note that's there to it. Now, it's starting to dry out a little bit now. So here comes some of the layers. As the finish begins to develop, you start to get into a little bit of that dryness. So you start to get some of that like sweet tobacco, some of the leathers that are there. But again, that lingering spice, oak, that orange citrus that's there, the heavy dark fruits, that creme brulee. It's a really nice bourbon. Yeah, again, some of that like sweet tobacco. The tobacco note's really starting to become, you know, fairly noticeable on this one. The dryness is definitely there. Not super dry. I would say for this one, had it probably gone much longer or much beyond the 12-year point. And again, I don't know, with it being blended, there could be, you know, older whiskeys that are in there, but the youngest being 12-year could be there. So maybe, you know, depending on, again, what's in there, you know, if it got much beyond, I think, the 12, 13, 14 year, you know, age, especially on this one, it probably would have started to have become a little bit too, you know, heavy maybe on the oak and the dryness, which for me makes a bourbon not very enjoyable because it has a tendency to really just want to dry your palate out quite a bit. But I think this one, they did a nice job with pulling it or blending this at the right ages. I think it's a really, really nice, well put together bourbon whiskey. So kudos to them for kind of, you know, putting this out in the market. So I think they've done a really, really nice job. So, but I guess I would say finish wise with this one, again, you've got some of that sweet tobacco that's still layered with some of the creme brulees, the vanillas, well, that being creme brulee, you know, the caramel, things along those lines, the dark fruits, that chocolate, that, you know, espresso. There's quite a bit actually going on. This will be one that I'd like to kind of sit down with a little bit more, see what it really does. But again, these have all kind of been open for, you know, upwards of a month. So it's been given a pretty decent amount of time to kind of open up a little bit of air to, or get to that, just to kind of help, you know, maybe see what that does. So overall, I think they've done a really nice job. They've hit a couple of different markets in terms of what people may be looking for. You know, the Jokester being something for me a little bit more on the different kind of profile side of things. And then you get into the 12-year, which is the hold up, which I think becomes a little bit more of a traditional type of profile that's there, something that you would expect for a lot of those full-bodied type of flavors to come from a 12-year bourbon. So both, you know, have got their place, you know, in the whiskey market. So I think they've done a really nice job with both of these. So with that being said, I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on whether or not these are ones that you've tried, your experience with either or both. You know, always love to hear people's feedback on those things. So also, if you'd like to help support or contribute to the channel, you can do that through my Patreon page, which I'll have linked in the description below. And then I guess as important, you know, thank you so much for all of your support and the continued support. It's a fantastic whiskey community. People leave a lot of great feedbacks or a lot of great comments, which I absolutely love. So With that being said, I want to say thank you again for tuning into another one of my reviews. And remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.